The desperate knock. It was a cold night on the lonely alien planet. David sat alone in his small metal house, far away from the busy city lights. The wind outside made strange sounds, and his old heater was not working well. He was tired. He just wanted some peace. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. It was soft at first. Then again, louder this time. Who would come here at midnight? David thought. No one ever visited him. He lived alone for many years, and he liked it that way. His life was simple. No trouble. But tonight felt strange. He stood up slowly and walked to the door. The knock came again, fast, desperate. David's heart beat faster. Carefully, he opened a small window in the door and looked outside. His eyes went wide. A woman was standing there, but she was not human. Her skin was smooth and pale blue. Her eyes were large and glowing. She looked very beautiful, but very tired. In her shaking hands, she held the arm of a small alien girl who hid behind her. Frightened, the woman's face was wet with tears. Her voice trembled as she spoke. Please, if you have a heart, let my daughter in. I can pay you with my body. Please, human. Please, please. David froze. He didn't understand what was happening. Why was she offering this? Who was this woman? And why did she look so scared? The girl beside her was crying softly. She looked very weak, like she hadn't eaten for days. David felt a sharp pain inside. He couldn't just close the door, but he was careful. He had lived on this planet long enough to know danger could hide behind a sad face. Why are you here? Who is after you? David asked, his voice rough but calm. The woman shook her head quickly. No time, please. They are coming. My daughter will die. Please, I beg you. Her fear looked real. Her tears were real. The child was clearly sick and hungry. David looked around behind them. The dark street was empty. But then he saw something. A shadow moved far down the road. Small red lights glowed in the dark. Someone, or something, was coming. David's heart raced. He had a choice to make, right? Now, he took a deep breath and opened the door wider. Get in, he said quickly. The woman did not wait. She pulled her daughter inside. As soon as they entered, David closed the door and locked it tight inside. The woman fell to her knees. Her body was shaking. The little girl hid behind her mother, looking around with wide eyes. David stared at them. Who are you? Why were you out there at this time? The woman wiped her tears, but her voice was still weak. My name is Rila. This is my daughter, Luma. They want to take her. Please, just let her stay. David sat down on a chair, but kept watching the door carefully. Who are they? Why do they want your daughter? Rila hesitated. She looked down at Luma, who was holding her hand tightly. Before she could answer, David heard another sound outside. A soft humming. Machines. His stomach felt cold. He knew this sound. Enforcer drones. They were here. David moved to switch off all lights inside the house. He pulled the curtains tight. He turned to Rila and whispered, Stay low. Do not move. The room went dark and silent, except for the girls. Quiet breathing. Outside, the humming grew louder. David's mind was racing. Why was this woman here? Why did she offer her body as payment? What danger was following them? But deep inside, something told him this was no ordinary trouble. He crouched near the window and peeked out slowly. Red lights were moving closer. Then a drone stopped right outside his door. Its camera eye glowed bright. David's heart pounded. In his chest, it scanned the door for a few seconds, then moved away slowly, floating into the darkness. David let out a slow breath, but knew this was not over. He turned back to Rila. The woman was crying silently, holding Luma close. "Why are they after you?" David asked again, this time more gently. Rila looked up at him with tired, wet eyes. Because my daughter is special," she whispered. But before she could explain, there was another knock on the door. This time, it was loud and angry. David froze. His quiet life had just turned into a nightmare. Refuge in the shadows, David stood still, listening to the angry knock on his door. His heart beat hard in his chest. He did not know who was outside, but he knew this was dangerous. Rila held her daughter tight. She whispered, "Please, don't let them take us." David took a deep breath. He moved quickly, signaling Rila to hide. He pointed to a small storage room at the back of his house. "Go there. Stay quiet. Do not make a sound," he said. Firmly, Rila nodded. She picked up Luma and rushed into the storage room. David shut the door behind them softly. Then he stood near his own front door. The angry knock came again, louder. David shouted, "Who is it? What do you want?" A cold, mechanical voice answered from outside. "We know you are hiding fugitives. Open the door or face punishment." David felt sweat on his forehead. He tried to think fast. He needed to protect the mother and her daughter, but why was he doing this? He barely knew them, yet something inside him, his human heart, would not let him give them up. "I don't know what you're talking about," David lied. "There's no one here." There was silence for a moment. Then the voice spoke again, more threatening this time. "We will scan your house." Stand back. David's stomach turned. He knew what that meant. If they scanned the house, they would find Rila and Luma. He had only seconds to act. He ran quickly to his old power panel on the wall and pulled a switch. The lights flickered and died. His house fell into darkness. He smiled grimly. His old power lines were weak. The scanners would fail without power. Outside, he heard the drone humming louder. Its scanners tried to search his house, but could not penetrate the thick, cold metal walls without power. After a long pause, the voice outside spoke again. "System failure detected. We will return." Then David heard the drone flying away. Into the night, silence returned. David let out a long breath and leaned against the wall. His body was shaking slightly, but he had one. For now, he moved to the storage room and gently opened the door. Rila and Luma were crouching inside, holding each other. The little girl's eyes were wide with fear, her small hands gripping her mother's arm tightly. "It's okay. They're gone. For now," David whispered. Rila looked up at him. Her glowing eyes were filled with tears, but also hope. "Thank you, David." "Thank you," she said softly. David nodded, but kept his face serious. "Tell me the truth now. Who are you really? Why do they want your daughter?" Rila took a deep breath and sat down on the cold floor. She pulled Luma into her lap, brushing the girl's hair gently. "My daughter. Luma is not just a normal child," Rila began quietly. "She was born with special blood." David frowned. "Special?" How? Rila hesitated, but then continued. "Her blood can heal sickness. It can heal wounds, even human diseases. The government discovered this when she was a baby. They wanted to take her and use her, experiment on her forever." Her voice broke with sadness. "I ran away. We've been hiding for years. But now they've found us again," she whispered. David listened carefully. He felt a deep sympathy for them. A mother running to protect her child. A child hunted for her gift. He stood up slowly. "You can stay here tonight," he said firmly. "But they will come back. And next time, they won't leave easily." Rila nodded. "I understand. But thank you. Thank you for this night." David looked at the small girl in her mother's arms. Luma looked up at him, her big shining eyes full of fear but also trust. His heart softened. But then, outside the window, he saw something that made his blood run cold. In the distance, a large ship was landing silently. It was not over. The real danger was just beginning. The chase begins. David stayed still, staring out of the window. The large ship that landed outside made no noise, but its sharp, glowing lights cut through the night. The cold wind carried a strange humming sound. His chest felt heavy. Why had he let them in? Why was he risking his life for strangers? But then, he looked back at Rila and her daughter Luma, sitting close together on the floor. Luma looked up at him with innocent, scared eyes. She was just a child. How could he turn them away now? Rila whispered, "That ship? It belongs to the enforcers, the hunters." David nodded grimly. He knew these types, cold, ruthless, and they never stopped once they found their target. Suddenly, there was a noise on the roof, soft footsteps. "They are already here." David whispered sharply. He moved fast, pulling a hidden hatch under the table. "This way? Follow me," he said. Rila stood up quickly, holding Luma's hand. They hurried down a narrow, dark tunnel beneath the house. The tunnel was old, made for emergencies. David never thought he would actually use it above them. They could hear boots entering his house, crashing his furniture, breaking his things. Rila looked back as they ran. "Thank you, David. You are risking so much for us," David said. Nothing. He just kept moving. The tunnel would take them far from the house. But the enforcers would soon track them again. At the end of the tunnel, they reached a locked metal door. David opened it carefully. The tunnel led into the back alley behind his house. The sky above them was dark, but full of searchlights scanning everywhere. He held up a hand. "Wait here. We must move carefully." He checked around the corner. Then, a sharp noise. A drone floated into view, scanning the alley. David froze. If they stepped out now, the drone would see them immediately. Rila whispered, "We can't stay here. They will find this tunnel soon." David thought quickly. He grabbed a metal rod from the ground. His old training from Earth came back. To him, he knew how to fight drones. He stepped out suddenly and threw the rod fast. The metal rod hit the drone's sensor directly. Sparks flew and the drone dropped to the ground. Broken, Rila gasped quietly. "You're very brave." David allowed himself a small smile. Brave or foolish, I'm not sure. He led them out into the shadows, keeping close to the walls. As they moved quickly through the dark streets, David asked, "Where can you go? Do you have a safe place?" Rila shook her head. "No one will help us now, except maybe the human sector." David stopped walking. The human sector was far and dangerous to reach. It was deep inside the alien city, surrounded by guards, but it was the only place where they might be safe. David made up his mind. "We'll go there," he said. "I'll get you there safely." Rila looked at him with surprise and hope, but at that moment a loud voice echoed through the air. "Attention! Fugitive mother and child spotted near Sector 9. All units respond." David's blood turned cold. They were surrounded. Rila held Luma close, whispering something soft to her daughter. David grabbed Rila's hand. "This way, run," he shouted. They sprinted down the narrow streets, ducking into alleys, hiding in the shadows. The hunt had truly begun. Secrets revealed. David, Rila, and Luma ran through the dark streets. The cold wind whipped their faces. Red searchlights flashed across the buildings, looking for them. In the distance, they could hear the heavy boots of enforcer patrols. But David did not stop. He knew every corner of this part of the city. His mind worked fast. He had to find a place to hide before the patrols caught up. Finally, he led them into an old abandoned factory. Inside, it was dark and silent. Dust covered the floor. Broken machines stood, like shadows in the night. David pushed an old metal crate aside and motioned for Rila and Luma to sit behind it. "Stay low. We rest here just for a moment," he said softly. Luma curled up beside her mother, her small body shaking from fear and cold. David sat across from them, watching the door carefully. Then he turned to Rila and spoke quietly. "You promised me answers," he said. "Now tell me the truth, all of it. Why do they really want your daughter? What is so special about her?" Rila held Luma close. Her glowing eyes met David's. "She's not just my daughter," Rila whispered. "She is a miracle." David frowned. "A miracle." Rila nodded slowly. "Her blood can heal. It can cure sicknesses that even human medicine cannot." When she was born, the doctors discovered this. Soon, powerful people found out too. They wanted her not as a child, but as a resource. She paused, taking a deep breath. They would lock her in a lab forever, take her blood again and again, until she had nothing left. Rila said, her voice breaking. "I could not let them do that to her, so I ran." David felt his chest tighten. The small girl hiding beside her mother hunted like an animal because her blood could heal. His hands clenched into fists. Rila's voice dropped even softer. "There's more, David. Her blood, it can heal humans too. That's why they will never stop. They control her. They control life itself." David sat in silence for a moment, thinking it all made sense now. The enforcers didn't care about Rila. They wanted Luma, a child who could heal the sick, the wounded, even save dying leaders. David finally spoke. "You said you have no safe place, but the human sector. They might protect you." Nodded, "Yes, but it is far and guarded." David looked down at Luma. The little girl was staring at him with wide, innocent eyes. He felt something deep inside, a duty. "I will take you there," he said firmly. "Even if it costs me everything." Before Rila could thank him, a loud metallic clank echoed through the factory. David froze. He stood up fast and pulled out a small old pistol from his coat. In the shadows, a figure appeared, tall and wearing black armor, an enforcer. His red visor glowed in the dark. The enforcer spoke in a cold voice. "You cannot run, human. The girl belongs to us." David raised his pistol slowly. His hand was steady, but inside, he knew he couldn't win a fight like this. Rila hugged Luma tight, whispering, "It's okay, my love. I won't let them take you." David made a fast decision. "Get ready to run," he whispered to Rila. Then, without warning, he fired his pistol at a large gas pipe above the enforcer's head. The pipe exploded with a loud bang. Smoke and sparks filled the room. David grabbed Rila's hand and shouted, "Now, run." They dashed out the back of the factory as flames rose behind them. Escape plant of flames behind them lit up the dark sky. Smoke rose high as David, Rila, and little Luma ran into the narrow streets. The city was awake now. Alarms sounded everywhere. David knew the enforcers would come fast. They had to move carefully, but quickly. There was no going back. They reached a quiet alley. David stopped, breathing hard. He looked around and spoke firmly. "We can't keep running like this. We need a plan." Rila, holding Luma tight, nodded. "The human sector. If we can reach it, they might give us protection." David knew that was true, but the human sector was far away and surrounded by security walls. No alien was allowed inside without permission. He checked his old map. "There's an abandoned tunnel," David said. "It runs under the city. It could lead us near the human gates." Rila's eyes lit up with hope. "Then let's go." David led them through side streets, staying in the shadows. The city above was busy with searchlights and drone scanning. Every street they arrived at an old fence near the edge of the city. Behind it, the tunnel. Entrance. But something was wrong. The entrance was blocked. Large metal bars covered it, locked tight. David cursed under his breath. "We can't get through this way," he said. Luma, tired and afraid, clung to her mother. Rila looked at David, her voice shaking. "Is there any other way?" David thought. Hard, the storm drains. They run under the walls too. It's risky. But it might work. Suddenly, a loud mechanical hum behind them. David turned fast. Two enforcer drones floated down into the alley, their red eyes glowing. A robotic voice spoke, "Surrender. The child must be returned." David raised his pistol again, but this time there was no gas pipe to shoot. Rila stepped forward, her voice desperate. "David, please. I will do anything. I will give you what I offered before. If you just help my daughter escape." David looked at her, tired, frightened, but ready to sacrifice herself for her child. His heart hardened. "I don't want your body," he said quietly. "I want to save your daughter, because it's the right thing to do." He stepped in front of Rila and Luma, pointing his gun at the drones. "Run when I say," he whispered. Rila gasped. "No, you can't fight them alone." But David had already made up his mind. He fired at the first drone, but it dodged and fired back. The shot hit David's side. Pain shot through his body. He stumbled but did not fall. He fired again, this time hitting the second drone's lens. It sparked and fell. "Run." David shouted. "Rhe, let not hesitate this time." She picked up Luma and ran toward the far end of the alley. David, wounded, fired again at the last drone. His vision blurred. The drone aimed at him, ready to fire, but before it could shoot, David dove behind a crate. The shot missed, and the drone chased after Rila instead. David gritted his teeth and stood up slowly. He had to keep going. He would not let them take that little girl. Not tonight. Sacrifice. David pressed his hand against his bleeding side as he stumbled forward. His legs felt weak, but his mind stayed sharp. He couldn't stop now, not when Rila and Luma needed him most. Ahead of him, in the shadows, he could see Rila holding Luma tightly, hiding behind a pile of old crates. She looked back at David, fear and worry clear in her glowing eyes. The last drone hovered nearby, its red scanner moving left and right, searching for them. David whispered to himself, "I must end this, even if it costs me everything." He picked up a broken metal pipe from the ground. His pistol had only one bullet left. He had to make it count. Carefully, he moved into the open. The drone turned instantly, its sensor locking onto him. Human target detected. The drone's cold. Voice said, "Surrender." David smiled weakly. Instead of surrendering, he raised his pistol and fired, not at the drone, but at a hanging sign above it. The bullet hit the chain, holding the heavy metal sign. The sign fell fast, crashing onto the drone with a loud bang. Sparks flew. The drone's lights flickered, and then it went dark. David dropped his pistol and fell to his knees, exhausted, but they were safe for now. Rila rushed to him, tears in her eyes. "David, you're hurt," she cried, kneeling beside him. David gave her a weak smile. "A scratch. We have to keep moving." But as he tried to stand, he collapsed. His wound was worse than he thought. Luma, the small alien child, stepped forward carefully. She placed her tiny hand on David's wound. Her hand glowed softly. David felt warmth spreading through his body. The pain faded slowly. He looked at her in surprise. She healed me," he whispered. Rila nodded, her voice soft but proud. "Yes, this is why they want her. But she chose to heal you, David, because you protected us." David sat up slowly, still amazed. He touched Luma's small hand gently. "Thank you, little one," he said. But there was no time to waste. In the distance, they heard more enforcer boots. Rila stood up. "David, please, you don't have to help us anymore. You've done enough. You've sacrificed enough." David shook his head firmly. "No," he said. "We finish this together." He looked around quickly. An old maintenance cart was parked nearby. "We can use this to move fast," David said. He helped Rila and Luma climb inside, then started pushing the cart with all his strength. Despite the pain, the cart rolled down a steep slope, taking them deep into the underground storm drains as they disappeared into the darkness. David knew this was their last chance. He whispered to himself, "I'll get them to safety, no matter what." The final choice, the old maintenance cart sped through the underground storm drain, wheels rattling loudly as it bounced over broken metal tracks. David pushed with all his strength, his muscles burning, but he did not stop. Behind them, the sound of enforcer boots echoed through the tunnel. Rila held Luma tightly in her arms. The little girl looked at David with trust and hope in her glowing eyes. Suddenly, a beam of light flashed ahead. David pulled the cart to a stop. At the end of the tunnel was a large metal gate. Tall, rusted, but still locked tight. Beyond the gate was the human sector. David could even see a guard tower and human soldiers on the other side. Safety was right there. But this gate stood in their way. David ran to the gate and banged on it. "Open up," he shouted. "I have a child in danger." The human guards looked down at him, confused. One of them picked up a radio. David kept banging. "Please, let us in. They're coming." Behind him, Rila gasped. The enforcers had reached the tunnel. Their red lights glowed in the darkness. David turned back to the gate. A loudspeaker crackled. "Identify yourself." David shouted, "I'm David Hunt, human trader. Please, there's no time." The soldiers hesitated. The enforcers stepped closer. Their leader raised his arm. "Hand over the girl." "Human," the enforcer said in its cold, mechanical voice. "This is your last warning." David stood still, thinking fast. Then he made his final choice. He stepped forward, raised his hands, and shouted to the guards, "Take the mother and child in." "I'll hold them here," Rila cried out. "No, David, please, don't." But David turned to her with a small smile. "Go," he said softly. "You both deserve to live. You gave me something to believe in again." The human soldiers opened a small door in the gate just wide enough for Rila and Luma to slip through. David watched as Rila, crying, kissed Luma's forehead and whispered something into her ear. Then she looked back at David one last time. "Thank you," she whispered, and then they ran through the door. Into safety, David turned back toward the enforcers. His body ached. His mind was tired, but his heart was full. He stood tall, blocking the tunnel. "I'm here," he said, "but they're gone. You lost." The enforcers raised their weapons just as they fired. The gate behind David slammed shut. The soldiers on the human side watched in silence as David fell to his knees. But he smiled because he knew he had one, far away. Safe now in the human sector. Luma looked up at her mother and whispered softly, "Mama, he saved us." Rila held her close and nodded. "Yes, my love. He had a heart."